welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. It's been 10 seasons of guiding, empowering and hand-holding small businesses such as yourself. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. On the show tonight, we're bringing you the Leaders of Tomorrow Town Hall, a series of roadshows that we do pan-India. In tonight's conversation, we're bringing you highlights of a panel discussion that we did in Chennai talking about health tech and healthcare and medical and med tech and how it's being propelled along by the use of technology. My colleague Pooja Jain was in Chennai to do this panel discussion. Let me first up introduce our panelists. First up, Dr. Khushali Gambhir, Chief Consultant, Dr. Khushali Homeopathic Clinic and member, FICCI. Dr. Anita Suryanarayan, VP and Head, QA South, Senior Consultant Hitech, Metropolis Healthcare. Dr. Professor U.S. Vishal Rao, Director, Head, Neck Surgical Oncology and Robotic Surgery and Dean, Center of Academic Research, HCG Academics.
Let's dive right in. And, Dr. Khushali, if I could please kickstart with you. Now, India is home to the second largest geriatric population worldwide. Over 90 million Indians are over the age of 60. So while we have a reasonable understanding as to how technology has permeated the larger medical centers, perhaps also the larger hospitals, how has technology permeated home-based health?
Firstly, thank you for having me over. This is such an interesting panel. And I'm excited to share my own experiences in this field. So while India is a matrix of single-unit doctors, home health care, and the large corporates, the recent last 3 years has spearheaded what technology probably would have been a 10-year slow climb in 3 months. And that went across home health care and the hospitals. In fact, more so in single-unit doctor clinics and home health cares because of the lockdown. When you talk about an ecosystem, the biggest ecosystem that came up which drove this was the legalization of telehealth. 20th March 2020, NMC put out legalization guidelines, and that changed it. Simultaneously, there were people teaching senior citizens how to use Zoom. It was across the platform. Within weeks, the ecosystem just boomed.
Well, Doctor, you've referenced telehealth, and we certainly know that story well, but I've got a follow-up question there, and I'll come to you there, Dr. Anita. So, look, the doctor-patient ratio in India is, I believe, one doctor to every 1,500 patients. So that doctor-patient ratio is staggering. And so while we've understood that telemedicine or technology in general has helped bridge the gap when it comes to accessibility or perhaps even affordability, what has it done when it comes to quality of healthcare received?
So yes, the quality is one thing, and thank you very much for having me over. Quality is one thing which I think kind of blossomed. The thing was, if you do remember at that time, we had only few COVID labs which were there for doing the testing, and these were all government's labs which are there. But when the cases really rose, we had to do an entirely new virus, which was not, which we had not tested before, with new technology, new methods, in labs which are not doing what we do as the RT-PCR. We know it very often. And there is where the quality status stepped in, and the government decided that we let you go ahead with it, provided you get an ICMR clearance. Now, the ICMR clearance we could get, they did give it to us, in the fact that the NABL decided to step in. So NABL is nothing but National Accreditation of Board of Laboratories. They stepped in to certify. So we had these audits, and I must say the fraternity across India was very good because no one could travel. And we did have these online assessments happening. from doctors sitting in various locations who would go through your laboratory, go through your processes, go through your, the way you were delivering your reports and everything. And that's how the quality of the reports and the turnaround time, very important for a patient, was maintained. Patients need reports on time. So turnaround time also has become a very good factor. It's a measure of your quality indices. So with these things, the industry has totally, logistics. Logistics improved so much across the country with various players stepping in and bringing the samples. The samples have to come in a particular temperature, particular mode, reach in a particular time. They stepped in even to provide that and let the samples come to the reference labs for testing. So that is how the entire quality system is working, has worked, and we only hope that it will particularly improve. You can track a sample, you can track a report, you can track just anything now, and anyone can do it. So that's the way the quality systems will work.
Sure. And you know, Dr. Rao, I don't want to ignore Chennai in this conversation because Chennai is home to the country's first medical technology park. And it is upwards of 1.2 million square feet. It houses over 100 startups and their, respective R&D facilities. What do you consider to be some of the greatest success stories that have emerged from that park? And are they largely on the diagnostic side or the treatment side, for the benefit of our audience and entrepreneurs in that space?
Thank you, Pooja, and thank you ET Now and IDFC First Bank for hosting this lovely program. I'm representing HCG and I represent Pan India. I'm originally representing Bangalore, but I think I'll take the liberty to speak for India and South broadly at this juncture. I think if you go back into the last 2 years' history, I would say that, on a lighter note, I would say that the time history has been divided into BC and AD. BC is before COVID and AD is after disease. Right. The world is going to be completely different after COVID. And the ecosystem of late has changed in a very interesting way to adopt it for diagnostics and therapeutics together. Right. And I see the biggest achievements that we're going to do, and I must witness this and say that if you look at pre-COVID, we call it as bench to bedside medicine. Takes 17 years from bench to bedside. During COVID, we've converted it into a research innovation hyperloop with almost 17 days or within 17 months, we've created vaccines. It's historic to see that we've converted the entire thing into a hyperloop. And today, whether it's a diagnostic test that came from India to whether it is a theranostics or whether it is a therapeutic vaccine that came in, I think have changed the ecosystem of innovation for the country, and this is the time I would want to be here.
Well, excellent, and that leads me to a follow-up question, and I'll pose that to you, Dr. Khushali. Based on Sir's comments, are startups in the medtech space perhaps, look, they have to win over the customer and regulators alike, all right? They have that dual challenge. So is there increased pressure to get on that proof of concept and path to profitability? And how might you guide entrepreneurs that find themselves in that position?
I think to go a little bit on a smaller note, what I found boomed in the sector itself were practice management systems. Sure. And they boomed a lot because a lot of people required them and they had to look at the profitability. And I think the ecosystem provided it because there was a lot of legal changes that came up during this time. Customization was lost initially, but customization also has started growing. Similarly, there are lots of, as I said, small unit doctors will be the base fabric for the growth, finally.
Right. And say we were to go, Dr. Rao, a step beyond telemedicine, a step beyond e-pharmacies, and we've done very well in those areas. But how has India done across other verticals of healthcare, perhaps more advanced verticals, be it robotics or be it genomic sequencing, be it nanotechnology? How do we compare to global counterparts? Do we still have some catching up to do?
I, on the contrary, feel that we are currently at the best times in history to lead the world. And I take a lot of pride in saying that we in Karnataka set up the first genomic surveillance state committee. Now health is a state subject. We took up I was one of the early part of the members of that task force and the genomic surveillance committee. And during that period, we were actually talking about burnouts of cost, which was all focused on treatments. But we had to also do genomic surveillance. And I remember the chairman of the task force, our Honorable Deputy Chief Minister, asked us, he says, how important is this? And we said, at the global scale, today, we are behaving more reactionary. We are not behaving in a proactive manner, we are behaving in a reactive manner. How do we prepare ourselves for the next pandemic? How do we create a more pandemic preparedness platform? And I'm again happy to say that we are setting up one of the first pandemic preparedness centers for the country today. Our job was at that point in time to look at how do we predict the next variant much before it hits us. So when we set up the genomics platform, I remember we were in touch with the UK's NVAP committee, the new variant assessment platform. We were in touch with CDC's peers, and globally trying to exchange information almost at the same platform, at the same speed, with a very high burnout rate. But what actually made a difference to us was, and as a state, we were looking at this example, we collaborated and not compete. When you collaborated and across peers, across various organizations, government, private sectors dissolved their differences, we all got together. The power became humongous. The resources became pooled. We started exchanging resources, reagents, infra were shared. The intelligentsia was shared, the bioinformatics. So what happened was there was a small consortium of the most powerful intellectual groups of this country coming together. And I believe we are at the cutting edge today in terms of any technology that we could do. It's just that we need an enabling ecosystem. This is the time. This is the time to beat China. This is the time to conquer the world, because I don't think there's a better option than this at this point in time with the intelligence we have. We don't need to go out of this country and do it. We need to do it inside here.
I think that deserves a round of applause, please.
I'm going to take a quick break on that note. We're back in just a moment. Do stay tuned for the Leaders of Tomorrow Town Hall. Welcome back with us here in Leaders of Tomorrow. Tonight, we're bringing you our Leaders of Tomorrow Town Hall series from Chennai.
Dr. Anita, look, India is home to over 5,000 startups in the medtech space, all right? And I think the market is valued at upwards of $375 billion. If I would ask you to offer us a sneak peek into the future, for entrepreneurs in this room that may be considering making their mark in the industry, where can they make their presence most felt? Where can they essentially establish a business that isn't a Me Too player, but you believe the journey is just about to begin for that particular sub-vertical?
So I think the journey, like I said, is about to begin for everybody. And I truly agree with Doctor that this is the right time to be in any industry at any time. Our business, like a lab business and pathology labs, basically we thought we only need to deal with blood samples, urine samples, and whatnot samples and give out the result. But you don't need that. You need to have people you can reach out to and people who are available for you at any point of time they want to start. Now, as a unit by ourselves, we need smaller people. We need people to come along with us, join with us. I need software. I need software all the time because without software, I'm gone. So if you want to start a new startup company, like he mentioned Attune was, and now look at Attune today, we are all relying on it like no one's business. It's just everything for us. And we also had logistics. People have started little logistics companies, and so we outsource to them, And they are the guys, I don't have them in my employment, but they are the ones I'm dealing with. I train those guys. Those boys, in turn, can start their own units. IT, today we are nothing without IT. Networking is important because our systems depend on that. So you need to have, and we have employed people from across the country now. So, you know, this whole place is just open for everyone and everybody to just step in and take whichever part they're interested in.
Phenomenal. And Dr. Rao, you know, I think Dr. Anita has highlighted a lot of great examples, some of which were on the services side. But if we had to hone in on the product side of the business, you know, given your background, right, do you believe that there's most scope for, you know, significant uptick, significant sophistication when it comes to, say, ultrasound systems, when it comes to diagnostic equipment, right? When it, say, comes to modular operation theaters, right? X-ray machinery. Where do you believe that we have the most, we're most well positioned to capitalize on those particular sub-industries?
The more I'm exploring, the more I'm getting confused, because I think in every segment, and I'm telling today at HCG, we've been a focus factor approach in oncology.
Right.
And I would say when we started off to now, I'm talking about cancer from a point of view of biology, to today we are talking about cancer to a point of view of quantum physics and mathematics. I'm currently a part of the global mathematical oncology group. So I really don't know the expanse of changes that are going to happen and the way it's going to happen, but every field I see that there is going to be a lot of deep dive into sciences, and that is going to lead to innovations. And this information today has to come from youngsters. So I would again go back to the ecosystem to say that we are in a time of reverse mentorship. We saw it during this pandemic that the kids were teaching the grandchildren, the grandchildren were teaching the grandparents Instagram. The startups were teaching corporations philosophies. There was a complete trend towards reverse mentorship, which I think is the key today.
Thank you, sir. And, you know, Dr. Khushali, look, all of the machine learning and big data and artificial intelligence in the world cannot change the fact that healthcare requires a human touch. And I think I'd love for you to respond to two things there. One, how do we strike that balance? And two, how does that balance weave in Dr. Rao's point around a gender neutral and a gender balanced approach to healthcare and its implementation?
So thank you for addressing this. Sometimes the doctors do get scared. Oh my God, what if AI takes over everything? What happens to us? We've done 6 years of study and then continuously more. But the fact remains is the human touch is needed. I was talking to someone else, another friend of mine who's a robotic surgeon, and you know, we were talking about how the IIT, there was a young IIT couple who had their wedding reception on the metaverse. And I said, okay, if this is the metaverse, how about me going back to that Star Trek era? You just put that hologram, send that metaverse figure or avatar into the village to do my tactile bedside examination of the patient, tell me if the throat has anything, tell me if the abdomen has anything, translate the data to me sitting in Chennai. I'm loving this thought. Then comes, okay, what's the cost of this now, you know, for me to do this? But yes, what the hand can feel. So currently we're in a hybrid mode. Currently, where we stand now, post-pandemic, we're in a hybrid mode where the convenience of online teleconsults is there, but we still call the patient back saying that, listen, I want to hear your lung. I want to feel. I want to check. So bridging this gap has to be a hybrid version. There is no saying that only AI will take up. AI can give you insight, but the feel, touch, and customization is required by a human being.
Well, I think that makes for a wonderful note upon which to open up the floor for some question and answer. But before I do that, I have to really thank this panel for sharing such a rich range of anecdotes from their personal as well as their professional journeys. A huge round of applause for them. I believe it's deeply deserved. Ma'am, if you could introduce yourself.
Hi to all the panelists, and this is Rajalakshmi from IDFC First Bank.
Hi.
My question to you, sir. You were mentioning about the post-pandemic hubs that you are a part of it. So I just got eager when you're talking about. Could you please throw some light on that, please?
On the post-pandemic?
The post-pandemic hubs on how to handle the next wave. So
Correct.
just few tips would be definitely helpful to all of us.
I think the one thing that globally everybody is talking about, the WHO, our union governments, federal governments, state governments, is One Health. That means a spectrum of things wherein the plant, the environment, the animal, and the human need to be connected in this ecosystem to understand that this is the time when all of these are talking one thing. So it's called One Health. Where we're talking about One Health concepts, where we are understanding on how it is going to be. And I think this is the era of what we said, where in this One Health concept, it's going to also have conscious capitalism, where you're not going to sustain the problem because it's going to give you revenues, but you're going to solve the problem in a more balanced manner, in a conscious capitalistic manner, where there is value addition, there is wealth addition. And I think that's what we are all moving towards. For those interested, there's a very beautiful report by Boston Consulting Group on reimagining the world with hands, hearts, and heads, on how the pandemic will, how the world, business world will be post the pandemic. And the one thing that I think it got my attention was it will be a people-centric one. It will have value addition, it will have wealth addition, it will be a balanced one, because it's no more just going to be only about wealth.
Sir, you could introduce yourself.
My name is Manotosh Hauladar. I'm a retired bureaucrat from ONGC, and I happen to be the IIT Kharagpur graduate. The question to Dr. Rao is that I was going through his background, and I'm really impressed. Sir, could you please throw something on your voice cord technology? How would you handle that, and what you did there in that?
I'll just make it quick. I think he's referring to an invention I have done on a voice machine. I have a patent on a voice machine that I've invented. It was recently showcased at Davos for Make in India. Just a quick one, it's a voice invention for throat cancer patients that I invented. And that's a part of this entire journey of Make in India, or what we're creating here. Very quickly, what I think my journey was in this area of invention. Now I have about 17 patents filed in drugs, in various areas. And the journey for me of what I learned in this entire thing was on how do I create it all here. It was very easy for me to take it outside of it, but I did everything over here. And overall, the entire invention from 13 years back when I started this journey, where everybody telling me that it's useless, it's not going to happen, it's never going to work, to now today holding those patents, even including drug discoveries. And I'm smiling to myself and saying it made sense. I think the lesson for every startup is that they will ridicule you, they will not take you seriously, because unless your idea is really ridiculous, it's really not a good idea. You have to have a ridiculous idea if you have to really make it successful.
I want to take the opportunity to thank you for making this riveting discussion with such range of depth and breadth. Huge round of applause once more.
Out of time on tonight's conversation. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our details are on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.